Next, involving a currency catalyst, guys, it's called jawboning. All right, jawboning is a major currency catalyst that isn't documented. There isn't a forecast. All right, it's actually very random. And so you'll never find it on an economic calendar. It's actually when certain heads of state or political figures that have a lot of importance and a lot of influence on capital markets say things that influences capital markets. Okay, and there are usually rules in place or agreements in place that individual heads of state or policymakers won't actually say anything in regards to what they want to do with policy. They will just enact the policy, because if you say certain things, then the market reacts. Okay, and so this was an example of when Mario Draghi and Steven Mnuchin actually clashed. All right, Steven Mnuchin is the head of the Treasury at obviously in the U.S. And Donald Trump also was at, I don't want to say at war, but Draghi also did not like certain things that Steven Mnuchin said. Okay, so this was way back January 2018. You guys can see here that Mr. Draghi didn't stop there. While he didn't reference Mr. Mnuchin by name, he suggested that recent comments breach an agreement among policymakers not to target exchange rates for competitive purposes. Okay, so basically they wanted to lower the dollar's value, okay, so that it could be more competitive on the open market. All right, and that's an agreement that, of course, is something that hopefully policymakers and heads of state don't go against, because once people start using their influence to move entire economies, currency rates, then of course that's not a good thing. It's a very slippery slope to other damning and straying things from a monetary policy perspective. Okay, so jawboning has massive impacts, and jawboning is anything that anyone says, whether they said it during a meeting minutes over at the Fed, or whether Draghi says it. And actually, Draghi's known to not actually say anything. He purposefully doesn't seem too hawkish or seem too dovish. And so any instance where you see Draghi overly, more overly dovish or overly hawkish, man, oh man, does that take massive effect into the overall markets. All right, so that's something you want to keep a lookout for. Jawboning overall, again, it's random. It can happen at almost any time. All right, and it can be very, very momentous and add a lot of volatility to markets. All right, so you want to look out for jawboning. Continue along.